In 1994, the film, The Shawshank Redemption, escaped box office woes with a soulful exclamation of brotherhood, hope, and freedom. Today, my grandfather sits down to bask in Hollywood legend and explore his felonious past. This is the Being Real podcast. My name is Evan. Pappy, it's time to be real. Hello and welcome to the Being Real podcast. I am joined by my legendary grandfather,
Pappy,
the criminal mastermind, Michael Swerbley, or as my family affectionately refers to him, Pappy. Pappy, how are you today?
I'm fine, thank you.
Are you enjoying your day?
So far, yes.
Well, I came up to Erie, PA for the weekend, and I just thought it would be nice to stop by. And since I have this podcast now, I thought what better way to cement your memory than to have you on an episode of the podcast.
Yeah, it's nice having you here.
It's so nice to be able to come up and just feel the nostalgia of my childhood. And how are you doing for real? Like anything new and exciting happening in your life?
No, I'm going to have a knee operation again. I figure once I have the last knee done, and I've had both hips done, I can go back to work.
What count are you at with body replacements?
I had both hips done.
Okay.
I had the left knee done twice.
Yeah.
Only for the reason is the first time they did it, they didn't put a knee with a pin in it.
Okay.
And something was funny when I was walking one day.
Yeah.
Well, I see my orthopedic. He set me in a chair, and he took my bottom part of my leg, and he could move it in and out.
Really?
Yes. And he says, "Yeah, you didn't have a pin in there." I said, "As far as I know, no."
Well, I mean, with all those procedures in total, you're really working toward being a bionic man.
Right.
An Iron Man.
Then I could go back to work. And get rid of the doldrum of every day just relaxing, enjoying life.
Well, that's what you should be doing at this stage in your life. But I guess from how I've known you over the years, you're not one to sit down. Is that right? You're not one to just kick back.
No, as my wife would tell you if she was here, but she passed away last year. She was always saying,
"Yeah,
what are you doing now?"
I feel like I share that with you as well. Maybe that trickled down the gene tree because I feel like I can't sit in one place or think about one thing. And I guess, do you get anxious when you're just sitting around?
Yeah, and then my mind starts wandering, and I go, "Oh, geez, I want to do this." So I'm off it. Right.
There is always new projects you're working on, basically.
Right.
You look at your perceived problems with your house. You've been a very hands-on guy, and I feel like that's something that I've tried to learn from you. You're almost, that, second father figure where if I have a problem with my house, you're like, call one or two, maybe even call number one. It's just nice to be able to have that in my life, second person to teach me how to, being a, newer homeowner, navigating that, you've been very helpful. So I appreciate that.
Oh, thank you. If I was living anywhere close nearby, I'd be in there with the project with you.
I bet you would. I bet you would.
And the other thing I do, sometimes I'll be sitting here watching TV nicely with my wife, and I'm getting bored.
Sure.
Watch it. I'll say, "Hey, would you like me to go get your son?" That I know that she likes. She said, "Well, if you want to, okay." I'm off and running.
Well, I'm thinking back to, I always used to look forward to coming over in Nana's house, and you guys would always roll out the stops for us. I mean, we were never like a family that snacked heavily. Like, we didn't have excess food in the pantries. We had what we needed. And when we come over to your house, it was like the floodgates were opened to chips, Cheetos, ice cream, and just, I don't know, enjoying those. You'd always put on a movie. I remember watching Uncle Buck with you. We'd go to the local Blockbuster, or I think it was called Hollywood movies or something. Yeah. And we would always rent a movie to watch. So that was always very enjoyable. Another thing I remember is always going to your camper that you had. Was it near Corey, Pennsylvania?
Yeah, it was at Corey, Hare Creek Campground.
Yeah. And I don't know. It was just always fun going out there, playing a deck of cards with you guys. You would take us to this restaurant halfway between called TJ's, and I would be running around playing arcade games with my sister, trying to win
getting tickets.
Well, spending your money primarily and getting tickets to, I don't know, win stupid prizes. I don't know, just getting some crinkle cut fries, a hot dog or a burger. It was bliss. Those are the simple things in life, right?
Yeah, that was it.
What did you most like about taking us to those places?
Feeling that the enjoyment you were getting out of it, where we were taking,
Yeah.
I mean, we even remember the time we went over to SeaWorld or something over in, it was over in Ohio.
Yeah.
And we got on the elevator in the hotel.
Yeah.
Went up, the door opened, there was a brick wall there.
I don't remember. How old was that?
Oh, you were a little tight, probably like 4 or 5. You go, this isn't good.
That is the only appropriate response for that happening. You know what? I do remember this. I remember feeling that, like, even back then, like, everybody, like, there was a chorus of laughter in the elevator. It was just like one of those moments where you're obviously not expecting it, and it opens up, and you're like, where do we go from here? I guess we're going back down. We're not getting anywhere on this floor.
They said, we'll try it one more time. And we went back up, and it did work that time. But we had a picture taken. It's around here somewhere where me and you were in the mouth of a dinosaur or something like that.
Oh, yeah. That must have been SeaWorld that you're thinking of.
Yeah, SeaWorld.
I was such a big dinosaur kid. I think everybody was, coming off the tales of Jurassic Park and all those movies. And man, I was so in love with dinosaurs. So that was like a dream, other than being in a T-Rex's mouth. I think you put me in there, and I was scared shitless.
I said, well, let anything happen. Yeah. And then you were always afraid of Halloween stuff. I mean, like when you had to go into spooky things and that.
Yeah. I remember, even Halloween, I was pretty paranoid. I was a pretty scared kid. So Halloween, going around the neighborhood, seeing everybody's like decorations or the animatronic figures that would be out would just terrify me. And you'd get a kick out. Nana would get a kick out of it. I know that. But I remember you taking me to, I think, Mason Farms, which is in Erie, is like a local, locally sourced sort of pumpkin patch and Christmas trees. And they have all these like rides and these blow up courses that you can go through. And I went through this like snake one, and it was like an inflatable obstacle course, but it was inside the snake. And I think I got halfway through, and I just felt so claustrophobic and panicked about not being able to find the exit. And I remember you got the biggest kick out of it, having to go back in there and get me.
Yeah, we heard you holler help. So they wouldn't let me go in. I had to take my shoes off. Yeah. And I crawled back in there and get you and go back out.
Oh God. Yeah, I was a scared little shit.
Well, that's all fun part of when you're young and that.
Yeah. Now, I know, you're very much and you like to get into trouble. You've storied all these things from your childhood and on that you're a little bit of a criminal yourself, which is very fitting for the movie we'll talk a little bit about soon. And
my middle name was Trouble. Well,
Trouble, your middle name. Well, what do you think? What do you think's the most crime-worthy thing you and your buddies got into back then? This could be off the record.
Well, we actually never got into a lot of trouble. I mean,
well, that's what all the criminals say. They always say they're innocent, just like they did with Shawshank. So, what really happened? What really went down?
I mean, like when we were young, me and my buddy, we used to, if it rained, we go through every puddle we could find,
Yeah.
And we got to school,
and
the teacher would say, "Why are your feet so wet?" I said, "It's raining out."
Yeah.
Well, you got to go down and see the janitor, take your socks off and get them dried out and that. That was our way of getting out of school, out of class.
Wait, okay. Your way of getting out of school was to get yourself soaked, basically.
Yeah, so we could go down to the janitor's room and get all dried up. That took about an hour and a half.
So you guys were very excited when it rained.
Oh yeah, we knew what we were going to do.
As far as your criminal actions, when it rained, it poured.
Boo! You suck. This is my least favorite guy.
Is that right?
Yeah. And then when I got to second grade, well, at the end, my mom and dad had to go in. Well, it was my mom that went. My dad wouldn't go. He never went to things like that,
Yeah.
And my mom would, the principal, Mrs. McCracken was her name.
McCracken.
Oh, she was big. She was one of them. You ever see these movies where the kid's small and this big teacher hoovering over top?
I'm thinking of Matilda, maybe.
Yeah. That's the way Mrs. McCracken was. She probably weighed about 300 pounds.
That's such a fitting name, Mrs. McCracken. Like,
and she told my mom, she said, "You got to find another school for him because we can't handle him here.
You can't handle the truth."
Yeah.
He's always getting in trouble. He don't want to pay attention. So he had to go home and tell my dad.
Did they paddle or soap you back then?
Well, they paddled you.
Okay.
So they took me, my dad enrolled us at St. Joe's Catholic School. He said, "They'll take care of you over here."
So they serve justice swiftly.
Yeah.
At this school, huh?
Yeah, my sisters blamed me and hollered at me for getting in trouble. So they said, "We got to suffer too."
Well, sure.
I said, "Well,
sure.
Sorry." But I straightened up over there a little bit.
Just a little bit.
So, over time, you might have had your heyday.
Yeah.
But now you've mellowed out in your old age.
Yeah.
No more crime.
No more crime.
Well, that's good. I never incarcerated, right?
No.
Well, you paused there a moment.
Huh?
You paused there a moment. Maybe you were close to it?
We were close to it.
Okay.
Well, I think I was a sophomore in high school. The police came up to the high school.
Yeah.
And they had all our names. They took us down to the precinct.
Okay.
And said, what's the purpose of this? And the police said, "You guys vandalized." I said, "What?" Yeah, my buddy said, "What?" It had to be another group of guys or something. But anyways, my buddy goes, "Well, what are we here for?" Well, you threw a six-pack of beer through the window at Wiggler School.
Yeah.
I said, "No, we didn't." "Yes, you guys did." My buddy goes, "Were they full or empty?" And the cops said they were full. "Well, it wasn't us then." Well, they fingerprinted us and found out it wasn't us. And
so you got a record somewhere.
Yeah.
Maybe in the past. Maybe it's clean now.
Yeah, and he said, "Well, somebody's here to take you." I looked at it. It was my mom, not my dad.
Mm.
I had to meet him when I got home. So my mom says, "Well, I'm not saying nothing. Your dad will say it for me when you get home and that." So I went home and I got a good lecture from him.
Oh, I bet.
My dad was tough. He used to say, growing up, I mean, we got our lickings. I mean,
yeah,
they were tough too,
Well, I mean, maybe they made you into the person that you are today, in a way.
Yeah.
You faced the consequences of your action. you were reformed in a way, maybe even redeemed.
Redeemed.
And, I mean, it's all formative. Maybe it's made you stronger in a way.
Especially, I come from, we went to say, I come from a Christian family and is a Catholic family.
Yeah.
And punishment was, too, is you knelt in the corner if you was bad. Whether you knelt on rice or on a round wooden peg for an hour.
This sounds like a prison camp.
Close to it, but it taught us, But I love my parents for that. I never drew any animosity.
Well, we're here today. I just stopped at Tim Hortons, grabbed you a donut, me a sandwich, and some coffee. Part of the podcast that we talk about is partly coffee. I guess where does that world start for you? Do you have a particular coffee that you like to get to start your morning?
I've never really been a coffee drinker all my life.
Okay.
Once in a while, we will stop.
Yeah.
And to show you a story, I worked for Presque Isle State Park for 35 years.
Right.
And my wife, Nana, always used to make me a big thermos like this of coffee. It's the quart size.
Sure.
Bigger than a quart size. The big Stanley thermos,
Yeah.
Never drank it. Every day she made it.
Really?
Yeah. I would give it to the guys down at work. Help yourself.
Yeah.
And she never knew it until I retired. And she said, well, I don't have to make any coffee anymore. I said, well, I never drank it anyway, so. And she said, you never did. I said, no, I didn't want to. I know you enjoyed it, so I just let you do it.
You didn't want to hurt her feelings.
Right.
Oh, that's sweet. So what do you do now for coffee, for going anywhere?
I go to Country Fair and I'll have a cup.
Okay.
Maybe twice a week.
It's a local convenience store in the area. Yeah.
I get a nice donut to go with it. Yeah.
Oh, you got to have the donut. I mean, drip coffee from a convenience store, especially Country Fair, that Country Fair coffee is something that I grew up on. Yeah. I mean, whenever I got into late high school, early college, when I stayed home for school, that was my go-to. It was so cheap. And that's exactly what that coffee is. Give you the pep you need to get through the day. I don't know, what's it like for you to have that experience about getting coffee? For me, I feel like when I'm going to get a coffee from somewhere, maybe it's a convenience store to start the day, I feel like it just gives me that first jump to get started in the day. So is it a step in the journey for you? Is it typically like your first errand for the day?
Not really. It don't bother me that way. Uh-huh. But once in a while, I enjoy having a coffee and a donut. They went together. It's like two little things,
It's a match made in heaven, as they say, right?
Yeah. And one donut may turn into 3 donuts, But
it could be liable to turn into a dozen.
Yeah.
Maybe a baker's dozen. Is there a certain roast that you like over others? Do you like
Just a regular.
Something in between, like middle of the road, like not too dark, but nothing too bright or
and I drink decaf too, so
good.
Just like a coffee drinker knows what he's having in that.
Yeah.
Me, it don't matter. When I go to breakfast with the guys, I'll start off with decaf.
Yeah.
And she'll bring it around. She'll say, "I'll bring your decaf." I said, "Just put it in there. It don't matter."
When you get together with the guys like that, were they all from your work at Presque Isle?
Yeah, we're retirees. We go once a month for breakfast.
I like that. There's nothing like that when you sit down with your people, having a cup of coffee to start the day. Yeah.
And we don't talk about work. We just talk about everything.
Yeah.
Sports or what's happening, around.
Where do you guys typically go? What?
Butch's place.
Okay. So you get a good cup of coffee from Butch's.
Yeah.
And so the conversation just drifts to life updates, sports.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we go to Butch's if they're closed. We'll go to Lori. Yeah, it kind of gives me an uplift,
Yeah.
A nice day, enjoyed it with them. I know they're wise, but we don't bring the wise in. But
it's just the boys.
Just an enjoyment.
Yeah.
2 hours, we're in there easy. I mean, we get a lot of talking what's new happenings or whatnot.
Right. Right.
So
that's nice. Yeah, I find that when I go to a diner or a cafe with my friends, I probably spend more time eating out for breakfast if I'm actually going with a group of people than I would at going to dinner somewhere. When it's breakfast, I don't know. Sometimes I feel like I just want to take that slow.
Oh yeah.
Are they jokers like you? You guys a band of criminals?
No, they're pretty straightforward. Except me and Kenny. Me and Kenny, when we worked even on it, we used to go back and forth all the time about different things.
Nana used to talk about Kenny.
Kenny.
I remember he was a character.
He was a character.
There's always that one go-to in the friend group where they're the guy.
Yeah.
That you get into trouble with. Was that Kenny for you?
Yeah. I always told him, I says, Kenny, you're not from Meadville. You got to be from somewhere else. You're like an old hillbilly, Yeah. I mean, his slow talking drawls,
Yeah.
We moved him from Meadville to Erie, him and his family.
Okay.
His wife. We drove down there in a U-Haul to get him. We pulled up to the house, and there's him and his wife sitting on the porch.
Uh-huh. Their bags packed?
And now we got out of the car. He says, well, you got everything ready? Well, no, we were waiting to see if you would come or not.
Yeah.
No packing done or nothing. We're waiting to see if we came in the truck.
To help him out, huh?
Yeah. That was stage one.
That's smart. That's smart, though, on his part,
Yeah.
Save the work for when the people come over. Secondly, while we're here with this podcast, to talk about the movie you selected. What made you pick this movie?
I was in jail one time for a night.
What, a night with Kenny?
No. This was a night down home.
Oh, there's no excuse, then.
And that was when I was smoking. It was a mistake.
Well, you picked the 1994 film, The Shawshank Redemption. It's an American prison drama film. It was written by Frank Darabont, it's actually based on a Stephen King novel as well, titled Rita Hayworth and The Shawshank Redemption. It was like one of two adaptions from Stephen King that was like ever nominated for an Oscar.
Huh.
That wasn't one of his horror films. It tells the tale of Andy Dufresne, played by Tim Robbins.
Right, and that's another reason I pick is I like to watch Morgan Freeman picture.
Yep.
He was a great actor.
Yep. Morgan Freeman playing Ellis Redding, known as Red in the film. Yeah.
Right.
I love that he narrates this film.
Yeah.
Because his voice, it's so soothing.
Yeah.
It keeps you propelled along watching the film because he just has one of those like engaging voices. You know what I mean? Something that you wouldn't even mind. You wouldn't even mind sitting there listening to his transcription of the encyclopedia.
Right.
If his voice was playing over it. Yeah.
He has that nice voice.
Nice timbre to his voice. Essentially, like the character Red and Andy, they become friends in their predicament. Andy seeks out his help because Morgan Freeman is like the trade guy. He's going to get you what you need.
Oh, man, you go to, yeah.
That's right. Your go-to man for getting anything from the outside world into the prison. And Andy, his predicament is that he's framed for the murder of his wife, sleeping with this golf pro, supposedly enraged by his wife's infidelity. He gets a little bit too much into his booze, thinks about
killing
him, but doesn't. He throws his gun into the river that's never found, and he's framed for the murder. It all looks like it adds up. They send him to jail around, is it 1940?
47.
47. He arrives to the prison, and he's not very much like the other inmates.
Yeah.
And they know it. They play that game when he comes in.
Yeah.
It's one of those like rewatchable moments when they first line up The new fishes is what they call them.
Yeah.
Yeah, new fish.
And they pick up who's going to cry out at night.
Oh yeah. They're trying to tag the new inmate that's gonna squeal at night. You know, that first likely a harrowing experience. I mean, you've been in a smaller cell. I'm sure it's not very comfortable. What can you tell us about that first night there?
Well, when he took me back to the cell, he goes, "Give me your belt." I said, "What?"
For what?
He said, "Give me your belt."
You're like, "Are you going to use it on me?"
You think I'm going to hang myself for a minor incident?
Maybe.
He said, "Don't get funny." I said, "All right, I'll give you the belt." I gave him the belt. And I went to sleep. And they woke me up at 8 o'clock. "Okay, you're free to go." I said, "You got my belt?" He gave me my belt, put it on. And they said, "Well, you can go. You'll get papers in the mail."
Uh-huh.
I said, No. I said, "You brought me here from my car. You will take me back to my car."
Whoa. Hey. You turned it on him real quick, huh?
Yeah.
Well, you were a free man.
Yeah.
You know?
He said, "Well, if you want to wait a few minutes, we'll get your ride down there." I said, "Yep, I'll gladly wait."
He said, "You bet you will." That's amazing. Yeah, I mean, Andy has his first night in the prison. He's not the one that squeals. Red bet some cigarettes on Andy crying first. And he didn't. And I think Red is very surprised by that. Because he looks like a very straight, well-to-do. Andy's like a banker.
Right.
Outside the prison. And so he didn't expect that at all. Andy subverts that expectation right from the start. And he gets mixed into some trouble with the sisters who essentially gang rape him.
Right.
Which is one of the more uncomfortable stories in the film.
Yeah.
In the film, if there's any quick synopsis of the film, Andy essentially spends 20-some years incarcerated.
Yeah. 1966. Now, if you notice, when he went in to his prison cell, the next day or something, he was picking on the wall.
Yeah.
That's when he knew he was going to escape. Because he could see when he was making the marks, all of a sudden the piece dropped off.
When they were making the film, I don't know if you know this, but the original shot that was supposed to happen was Andy was scraping his name on. And at first, they had pieces of the wall crumble off. And they were going to show that at the start of the movie. Near the start of the movie. After Andy gets the little small rock pick from Red.
Yeah.
Who smuggles it into the prison. I think it was probably one of the best editing decisions to leave the rock not crumbling off the wall to show you that he's going to dig his way to escape the prison. Because leaving that out and just him writing his name, it makes you think, oh, he's just passing the time. He's claiming his area. He's writing his name on the wall. You get that sucker punch at the end of the movie where you find out behind the Rita Hayworth poster that he was also smuggled as a gift from Red. He's been carving out a hole through the wall of the prison for the past 20-some years. So if you didn't leave that out and you kept that in from the beginning, you were already going to expect that he was going to try to escape from the prison. So it probably has to be one of the best editing decisions ever.
Because if you would watch it real close, when he was carving, he had Granny on there.
Yeah.
But he was making a circle of name. He was outlining the size of the hole. That's what you figured after you finished watching it, when you seen that there hole.
Right.
That's why he was making that circle of names. That was his blueprint for the size of the hole. Right.
I'd like to talk a little bit about a few of the messages and the themes of the movie. I think one is the just the platonic close friendships between these men that are made throughout the film.
Right.
I guess the message of brotherhood. Because in the beginning, Andy's obviously not accepted by the men, including Red and his friends. Eventually, they get a little bit close. Red starts to take Andy under his wing, and he fixes this drawing to have a group of inmates fix the roof of one of the prison buildings. They're doing a drawing for prison mates to go and do this work. And, you know, it gives them the opportunity to get out of the humdrum of the prison, get some sun, and, you know, stretch your limbs a little bit, right? So Morgan Freeman sets it up because he knows people within the prison staff, because he also smuggles things in for them too. He gets Andy's name drawn. They go to the roof. And I think one of the first signs of like brotherhood in the movie is when the captain is going on about this settlement payment he's supposed to get for his car of like $35,000. He's talking about, you know, issues with his wife and how she might leave him and take the money. And Andy, being a banker.
And the taxes he would pay.
Yeah. Andy, being a banker and knowing all about that, tries to speak up a little bit out of place. And the captain at first is about to throw him off the damn roof. And then he convinces the captain to enlist Andy's services to help him get that write-off. And the captain rewards the group with some beer. Because Andy said, if there's one thing I want to have, it's beer.
3 beers per man.
For my boys, right? You know, beer for my boys. So it's one of the small moments in the film where the captain actually shows that he's a human. They share this moment of humanity where even like the colors on the film itself, like with the sunset and everything, it's so much brighter, so much lively. They're relaxing and getting that part of their humanity back after being incarcerated for so long. And when they ask Andy, they say, "Andy, do you want a beer?" He says, No, I want to sit here and enjoy this. And Andy has this big smile on his face.
You know, yeah, if you think back after you watch the film, that's when I think he thought, he heard that sergeant, whatever he was called, Hadley was his name.
Yeah.
He says, he started going, they said, "No, get back, don't worry." But it's chicken in his mind that he could use this guy if he helps him.
Right.
He's going to help me in return.
There's a bunch of transactional relationships
in
the movie, you know? People have to play a game of chess here. So they have that, and that's one of the rewards of those moments. You see the positive sides to that.
Right.
And now a brotherhood has been formed. Have you ever had a moment with your buddies where maybe you sacrificed a little bit for the happiness of the group?
We just all worked in harmony together. It was unbelievable. That's why it was so enjoyable to work.
Or maybe a point where, you know, you took some flack from someone to help your buddy out.
No, I gave flack.
you raised a lot of hell, huh? Yeah.
Well, I will give you a moment that there was two guys.
Yeah.
They were having trouble. And Ron says, "Hey, you want to talk to them too?" He says, "You're a better talker than I am. I'm talking to people and that about things." I said, "Yeah," which I did. One was the guy he went home from work the day before and the closet was all cleaned out. She left him. And the other one is the guy was really nervous all the time. And I always said, "Yo, you can come and talk to me."
Yeah. Just leaving that line of communication open is important between two people.
Right.
And between a group or a brotherhood, because you need to let people know in your life that, you know, help is here.
Yeah.
Help is here. I think in this movie, you just see that back and forth between, they keep on giving back to each other in big ways. Like when Andy buys the harmonica for Red because he used to play it when he was a kid, or when Red gives him the posters really, of all these women, which ultimately aids in his escape, or even smuggling that rock pick that helps set off the whole entire thing. And you see at the end of the movie where they are going to Mexico. That's where Andy ultimately runs off to, so he can get away from the law and the consequences of escaping. Right. Leaves directions for Red. He says, "Hey, we'll talk about this," but he says, "Don't lose hope.
Yeah.
I know you've been penned up in here for so long, but don't lose hope, because there's more for you." And he leaves those breadcrumbs and those directions.
Right.
Leaves his parole, committing his second crime.
Yeah.
And joining Red out in Mexico. From the start of the film, you see Red trodden down. And then at the end of the film, it's so much brighter. And they're hugging and embracing on the beachhead of Mexico, starting Andy's new business or whatever. And it's this beautiful moment of the sharing of hope. And we'll talk about that.
Yeah, and well, it's just like, remember the librarian?
Yeah. Brooks, yeah.
Well, I believe what Morgan said.
Yeah.
They should have let him die in prison. Because when you reach a certain age in prison, what's there for you on the outside? You know, maybe all your friends are gone, family.
You've lived a whole life there.
In 50 years, he's in prison.
Yeah.
So at 50, he was probably 70 years old. What's there for him to do?
And, you know, it's like they've carved out and written this life for themselves. All their lives are storied there.
Yeah.
Relationships, victories, defeats, things they've learned from. Maybe they're stuck, in a sense. They're not a part of society, but they've made their own society.
Right.
Full of values. And there's a price to pay for that when you lose it. You lose nearly all of yourself. When Brooks finally gets out, he ends up killing himself. He hangs himself because he just can't reestablish. And the world looks a whole lot different.
What did Red say? Red said he should have died in here.
He uses the word, you get institutionalized.
Yeah.
Who are you? That's the question that's left. Who am I? Luckily, Red escapes that in the end of the movie. He doesn't follow the same destiny as Brooks. Right. And he's able to, through his friendship and the hope that they've shared, find peace. Try to find himself again in this big new world.
Right.
We'll take a break. We'll continue to talk about this film. And we'll play a game. I don't know if you're familiar with it. It's a 2 truths and 1 lie. I'm going to give you 3 quote-unquote facts from the film. 1 I've actually made up or altered, and your job is to pick the wrong one, the falsehood. What do you say?
Oh, yeah.
All right. And welcome back to the Being Real podcast. Still here with my grandfather in his homestead in Erie, PA. Enjoying some coffee, some laughs, life, and oddly a conversation about prison life for the criminal himself. Pappy, we had just spoken about, some aspects in this film, like the brotherhood that these men share together.
Right.
And I want to take a moment to invite you to play a game before we talk about another big message in this film.
Okay.
2 truths and 1 lie. So I'm going to list those for you right now. When I'm done, you tell me which one you feel
is the lie.
Is the lie. Okay. Stephen King, who wrote the Rita Hayworth and the Shawshank Redemption that the film was based on, never cashed his $5,000 check for rights to the film. Stephen King liked the film so much that was previewed to him, he never took a cent. Fact number 2. To prepare for his role as Andy, Tim Robbins actually spent some time in solitary confinement. He asked to be locked in solitary for a while to get a feel for it, as Tim was put in the hole by the warden. Fact number 3. The Shawshank Redemption was up against a stacked list of movies for the Oscars that year, between Forrest Gump, Pulp Fiction, and so forth. The film, which was initially a box office blunder, making nearly no money, but rallied when the Academy praised the film, took the Oscar by the surprise of everybody after it failed and bombed at the box office. Pappy, can you pick out what the lie is here?
Tim Robbins spending time.
Pappy, I regret to inform you that you have lost this game. So, Tim Robbins actually did spend some time in solitary confinement. He asked to be locked up to get a feel for it, although he knew that the experience wouldn't really be the same because it's voluntary. But fact number 3 was the falsehood. I just made that up. The Academy did rally for the movie to get the praise it deserved because it did fail to make its money back at the box office. But after the Academy praised it and it was up for an Oscar, then people went to go see it. It was re-released in theaters and actually recouped a shit ton of money in DVD and VHS release, as well as being played countless amount of times. No, it never won the Oscars. Forrest Gump won the Oscars that year.
Remember when Forrest Gump?
Yeah, that was actually the same year. Stephen King never took a cent. He mailed it back to the director, Frank, and note inscribed, "In case you ever need bail money, love, Steve." Which is pretty comical.
Yeah.
I don't think you're going to have to face any consequences, any time in the box for losing the game. It's all in good fun. I guess you can charge me with robbery for stealing that one from you. So, Hope in the movie, you see Morgan Freeman in the beginning of the film and subsequent times throughout the story where he's denied parole again and again and again. And he looks so defeated. He's institutionalized. He's almost given up on a little thing called hope until Andy comes in and really instills in him that you really are the maker of your own destiny and the outlook that you want to have. And he shows that by making the impossible possible. Has there ever been a moment in your life where you felt defeated, and did you rely on hope? And how did that get you through it?
Well, I could actually really say when I was up to become a supervisor.
Yeah.
I didn't think I would get it. Cards were stacked to me. And Nana's the one that got me out of it. She said, no. She said, you're a good person. They know it. You're going to get it. Don't worry.
So she just gave you some consistent reassurance.
Reassurance, yeah. And I did wind up getting it. And she says, I knew you would get it.
You have those people in your life that they make you believe in yourself in a way that it instills confidence when you feel like you're flailing. Not only having a friend, but a purpose. Sometimes you just have to take that leap of faith, instill some hope in yourself, and put your foot forward. There's always something to learn from that.
Right. That's why they always say when you take that leap, whether you win and you go on, you lose, you learn what not to do, what to do next.
These characters, they get set back in so many ways with all these transactional relationships between the warden and the captain of the prison. Andy gets beaten down by the warden. He makes good with the warden. He challenges the warden when he plays the records in the locked room for the rest of the prison.
Right.
He challenges the warden when the character, is his name Tim? It's the young kid. It goes in like the late 50s, early 60s, and this kid comes in.
The one that told him who killed his wife.
Yeah. Andy is obviously, completely reinvigorated, and he goes to tell the warden, who he believes is on his side, and he puts Andy in solitary. He beats him down, and he has that wild quote that almost dissipates any hope that Andy has left, where he's like, Andy gets to a point where he's constantly trying to give back to his brothers in the prison by building a library, becoming a teacher, helping Tom get his GED because he doesn't know how to read when he comes into the prison for the first time. It almost gets stripped away from him when he challenges the warden and he tries to express his desire for freedom when he learns who the real killer is.
Yeah.
The warden won't have it. He's doing his books. He knows he's going to lose all that dirty money. It's this theme of transactional relationships and stripping away rewards and privileges that Andy slowly receives through doing all this dirty work. And despite all these obstacles and all these things that trip him up, he keeps moving. He keeps moving for his brothers that give him that purpose, instills that hope for him that there's more for him and beyond those walls. What did you think about the warden and being an obstacle to hope?
Oh, he's terrible.
He's like, we're going to take that library of yours and burn it down and dance around it like Native Americans. He's a wicked son of a bitch.
That guy come to him, well, I can't do it. I'm losing money, you know.
Yeah.
But as soon as he slipped him the pie he looked first at the sleeve, the bunny.
And he's like, hey, here's a pie. And the warden looks in the pie box, and it's that wad of cash. And he's like, yeah, we can do it for that. Shows you exactly who he is, where it's this good act of good nature presented to him with the pie. A home-baked pie by this dude's wife. But he takes the money. He could care less about the pie and gives it to Andy and his friends. I mean, when Andy first gets in the prison, he makes this whole spiel about how I'm going to break you with the Bible in hand. He gives this mission statement that he's holier than thou and that he's above everybody in the prison.
The Lord is yours, but your ass is mine.
Oh, yeah.
That's a bullshit.
Yeah, bullshit. Yeah.
But did you notice in the picture it says that he sent that money to 4 different banks? If he put it all in one,
yeah,
there'd be a red flag here somewhere.
Right.
Where all this money's coming from.
Right. Well, yeah, I mean, Andy tries to route that cash and launder that cash everywhere he can, and he creates this whole identity. And it almost mirrors like exactly what they're going to do and reintegrate themselves into society. They're new people. They're never going to be Red and Andy ever again. There's so many little parts about like that really flesh out these characters. Like when you have that poster in the warden's office and it says something about judgment. Judgment shall be brought to thou, I think. Or something along those lines. And then the incriminating evidence of the laundered money and documents are in a safe behind that poster. Almost like that's his just desserts. Right behind that's going to be his judgment at the end of the day. And maybe, obviously criminally, but also in the eyes of the Lord that he supposedly revolves his life around, when we know it's really about the bottom dollar.
They didn't show in there that Andy was taking his money till the end.
He did like a bait and switch, yeah.
He had 2 books about it.
I love how the writers in this film, they never show all their cards.
No.
You're always left in awe of how much attention Andy has taken, afforded that he has all this time to make his master plan come to fruition. It's amazing. I mean, I'm thinking of having his little rock pick in the Bible, carved out in the Bible. It's funny because in that moment, way back, they do a search of Andy's cell, and the warden is so pleased that Andy is reviewing the Bible, and he knows all these verses by heart. Meanwhile, the smoking gun is carved inside the Bible itself, that rock pick that Andy escapes with. I love seeing those little things. I think now's a good time to just give our final verdicts on the movie. Typically, we close the episode with a verdict, like a numerical scale from 1 to 10. I think if we can start with mine, I think The Shawshank Redemption, as it's split up into these 8 or 9 or so small stories about their time over 20 years in the prison, it's almost like a vacuum where it just sucks you in, and you're so engaged into this story. Throughout the story, you see the lives of these men change before your eyes, from Morgan Freeman being this beaten down, withered, older man after a crime he committed in his youth and never offered his parole, into a man that's smiling He's on this Pacific wonderland in Mexico at the end of the film with Andy, now with a totally different life and perspective. And you see Andy where he's redeemed for whatever wrongdoings that led him to be framed for this crime. And through his own actions, he's manifested a life for himself that he never would have thought possible, stepping inside the Shawshank for the first time. It just goes back to that brotherhood, surviving with a great group of friends, teaching you many things to live the life maybe you never could have dreamed of. I'm going to give this movie a 10 out of 10. The script is so witty and sharp. It's just a very endearing script. And I think in the Internet Movie Database, where they collect all the ratings of all films, it's like number 1 for good reason. Where are you at with this movie?
Well, I watched the picture the first time. I've seen it about 4 times now. I watch it all the time. Me, it's a 10.
It's a 10?
Yeah.
Wow. I'm not surprised. I don't think you are either. I think we knew this movie was going to be a 10 out of 10 before we even gave our verdict, but it's nice to have that consensus. I really enjoyed this rewatch. I watched it with my wife, Katie. It was late. It was a Thursday evening. We started the movie at like 8:20, 8:30, and we thought, we'll finish half of it. We watched the whole thing. We couldn't put it down. We couldn't pause it. It imprisons you in the best way possible, you know? I'm glad we've carved this episode out talking about, our relationship, a little bit about your life, and talking about this movie, not only be one of the greatest films of all time, but one of your favorite films.
Yeah. Well, another thing, too, is I'll do that to movies I like. I'll watch them 2 or 3 times because there's certain things you miss when you watch it the first time.
Yep. And this is one of those films. Well, I appreciate you. And thank you for bringing one of the greatest films of all time to the podcast so that we could talk shop about it. Yeah, we've carved our way through this episode. We're seeing the light at the end of the tunnel, so to speak. Yeah, just like Andy. I want to thank you for being, a secondary father figure in my life. I learned so much from you, fixing things, appliances, but also being that, that comical relief. You've been that. You've been that second father figure in my life to bring both sides to the table for me. So I want to thank you for that.
Well, it's like I told a lot of guys down at the park that I worked with over the years, young guys.
Yeah.
I says, you can go through life, fix about everything you can fix,
Yeah.
Or do whatever you want to do. The only thing in the world that you can't fix is your brain. Don't mess up your brain. You can't fix it. There ain't no coming back. Any mental state, yeah. You can't think of a way of getting around it. I tell them.
Closing this episode, I will probably replay this episode my entire life. I really appreciated this time.
Well, I enjoyed talking with you.
For the listeners, if you ever feel like you're in a rut and you're low on a tank of hope, there's always someone to turn to. Call your parents. Lean on your friends. Shoot them a text. Don't be afraid that they're not going to have their line open. The people that you love in your life, they're always going to be there for you.
True.
Never feel ashamed for feeling the way that you'd feel. Your circle of people are the ones that are going to give you a good kick in the ass and send you with a lot of love to lead a life of happiness. Pappy, anything to say to the listeners before you go?
Well, goodbye, listeners. It was a joy talking to you. Thank you for your time.